It was well past midnight when Ellie found herself standing in front of her bedroom mirror. The world outside was silent, save for the occasional howl of wind. Her apartment was dimly lit, casting soft shadows across the walls. She stared at her reflection, tired eyes meeting tired eyes, and sighed. Her work papers were still sprawled across the desk. Deadlines loomed like storm clouds, but for once she couldn't bring herself to keep working. Every ounce of her ambition felt drained, replaced by the nagging emptiness that had hovered over her for weeks. Ellie knew what people saw when they looked at her. Success. At 30, she had climbed the ranks in her company, earned accolades, and built a life that seemed enviable from the outside. Friends and family often said, "You're living the dream." But was she? The question lingered as she stared at her own face, trying to find traces of the girl who had once been so hopeful, so full of life. Her phone buzzed on the desk, the sudden vibration startling her. Ellie walked over, expecting another work email, but stopped when she saw the notification. A message from her old high school teacher, Mrs. Novak. It was a simple reminder. "Hope you're doing okay out there, Ellie. The world always needs your brilliance. Sending you a little light tonight." Ellie blinked at the screen, her heart squeezing. Mrs. Novak had always had a way of knowing, of sensing when one of her students wasn't quite themselves. She hadn't spoken to the woman in months, and yet here she was, reaching out just when Ellie felt she might collapse under the pressure. Slipping into her chair, Ellie typed back a quick thank you and promised herself she'd call Mrs. Novak soon. But even now, that nagging question remained. What did brilliance matter when she didn't feel alive anymore? What was all the success, all the effort worth, if it didn't make her happy? Ellie sat for hours in the dimly lit room, trying to make sense of it all. Memories bubbled to the surface, moments long forgotten. She remembered being 15, sitting in the back of Mrs. Novak's classroom. She'd been so unsure of herself back then, so full of doubt about what she wanted or who she was. But it was Mrs. Novak who had gently nudged her forward, who had once asked her the pivotal question that still echoed in her mind. "What sets your soul on fire, Ellie? Not what earns a paycheck, not what earns approval. I'm asking what fills your chest with so much hope and joy, you forget everything else." Ellie had answered with her heart at the time. Writing, creating stories, crafting worlds from her imagination. It was the one thing that made her lose track of time, made her forget insecurity and fear. But where was that girl now? Ellie wondered. Where was the spark, the fire, the passion? As the question tugged at her, Ellie rose from the desk and grabbed her coat. She couldn't sit here anymore. She needed air. With brisk steps, she walked out into the night, the chilly breeze cutting through her thoughts like a blade. Her walk led her to the park, deserted this late but bathed in moonlight. She stopped at the center where the willow tree sat, a favorite childhood spot. At 15, she would sit on its roots and write in her journal for hours. But tonight, she was empty-handed, staring at the tree like a stranger. Then, just as she turned to leave, Ellie spotted something. A little notebook lodged between two branches, as though someone had left it there for safekeeping. Curiosity drove her closer, and she gently pulled it free. The notebook was worn and dusty, its cover blank but inviting. Flipping it open, she found 3 words scrawled across the first page. "Start again." Nothing more. Ellie frowned, flipping through the rest of the pages. They were blank, yet those 2 words seemed to glow against the emptiness of the book. She felt a strange sense of excitement, an inexplicable urge to sit, to stay with this notebook and see where it could take her. So she did. Ellie sat beneath the willow, the wind whispering overhead, the city lights distant and muted. In the quiet, she let herself dream. What would she write if she could start again? Where would she go? What would her life look like beyond the routines, beyond the expectations? The first words didn't come easily. She hesitated, scribbled and scratched out lines, frustrated with herself. But as minutes turned to hours, something clicked. A story unfolded, maybe one she had always been meant to tell. Ellie wrote until the sun rose, until the first rays of morning pierced the sky and warmed her skin. When she finally set the notebook aside, she smiled, not because she had written something perfect, but because she had started. It wasn't just the act of writing that set her soul on fire. It was the promise, the hope, the possibility of reclaiming herself. For the first time in years, she didn't feel trapped. she felt free. And that was the lesson, wasn't it? Motivation wasn't about pushing yourself endlessly toward something that didn't fill you up. It wasn't about chasing success for the sake of appearances or approval. True motivation was rooted in something deeper, something that fed your spirit and gave meaning to your days. Ellie left the park that morning with the notebook tucked beneath her arm. She couldn't predict where it would lead or how her life might change. But as she stepped forward, she realized the most important thing. You don't need all the answers to begin. You only need the courage to start again.